Violence Inherent in the System is the debut full-length album from Noxis, a Cleveland, Ohio-based death metal band. We could call them technical death metal, a little bit progressive, kind of a brutal death metal band, but we'll just call it death metal because it's kind of a lot of things at once. It's a modern death metal band, and younger folks who've been at it for several years here, but they've found a surprising point of maturity on this record in terms of just kind of an unexpected showing. Their earlier releases were pretty short. They were generally brutal. They were fairly straightforward in some ways, but we could tell there was this kind of finished death metal touch to some of it early on. There was a technical death metal side and a brutal death metal side to it on Expanse of Hellish Black Mire. But for me, there was no specific rhythmic niche, or there was no signature of this band that felt like it was ready for a full length. Now that they're here with that full length, I was pretty surprised. There's actually the distinct rhythmic language that I was asking for in my review of that EP seems to have arrived here, and it comes with a more brutal and unexpected touch to it. So let's cut to a song here and see what the big difference is. Part of this new sound is that they've got, I think, a newer drummer and so a front man who's playing. He's playing in a band called Scumbag. If you remember, I wrote about their EP Blood Drinker a year or two ago, and it was kind of a weird record that had some modern and not so modern ideas mashed together, kind of a New York death metal oddity. Adding him to the group and finding a little bit more of a Cryptopsy influence in some of their the way the drums are approached, we find that it's kind of an organic, brutal sort of stabbing and blasting death metal record, but also one that has pretty virtuosic playing in both the guitars and especially the bass guitar performances. I believe the bassist has been the main songwriter for most of their work. I believe most of the music was written by him up to this point. And on this record, what I find is that they start to play with rhythm in a way that goes beyond kind of the obscura melting of rhythms in and out of consciousness, and now we kind of get flowing thrashing movement on this record that I've likened to Stargazer on some of the songs here, and kind of an atheist-esque finesse to the way the bass rounds out and illustrates itself within the music. And so there's a lot of technique, there's a lot of intensity to everything they're doing, and they repeatedly sort of surprise throughout this record with the way that their raised energy erupts and internalizes just as well. And the best way that I can kind of carry all of these things in one hand is to compare it to the first and second Cataclysm albums. Now, those had some pretty wild vocals, but otherwise they were brutal in the same way that this is. They were expressive and spaced out in others, and they were far-reaching. And I think that this record shows that the band is reaching further and trying bigger things. I think the song Horns Echo Over Tourism, you'll get that this band is doing something very different, and you'll see why when you listen to this song. It'll be pretty clear what's different about it, but they're putting a lot of thought and time and detail into these pieces. Not only are they saying a lot with the lyrics, but they're writing songs that are above and beyond what a lot of their peers are doing, especially in the Ohio scene, the Cleveland scene in general, which is much more centered around simplistic, barbaric, brutal death metal and different ways of doing that, which I like that straightforward style quite a bit, but I think that this is deeply substantial by comparison and something that shows that they've really developed quite a lot over the years and very quickly. There's certainly some talent at the core of this band that is exploding on this record, and for me it was pretty undeniable. This is one of the better records of the month. It's just a fantastic death metal record, and it impressed me to no end as I familiarized myself with it. For me, that's a high recommendation. I think there's quite a lot of depth to what they're putting into this, but there's also a little bit of fun. There's a little bit of aggression and play with this record that keeps it flowing, and it keeps it from becoming too pretentious and stifled by the furor of it all. There's a lot to like here. This is one of my higher recommendations of the month, and it released on June 28th. Go ahead and check it out for yourself and read my review for my thoughts on how it all plays out.